The year was 1973. The U.S. troops leave Vietnam. Marvin Gaye's smash hit, Let's Get It On, was the Billboard Song of the Year. And Richard Nixon authorizes the construction of the Alaska Pipeline 50 years ago. But making few headlines, the culmination of a dream and losing bet would put 34 dog teams at Tudor Track in Anchorage to begin what many thought would be a 1,000-mile direct route into the heart of an unforgettable disaster.
The atmosphere at the starting line was, if anybody can make it, I can make it. And that was everyone's attitude, you know. But you're right, we didn't know if we could.
I'm going to go. He said, I'm going to go on in that race. I knew nothing else about it. It's just that it was going to happen. If it was going to happen, I was going to be there.
It was some devil take the hindmost, wild, every man for himself, pick your own route across the wilds of Alaska. It was exactly what I had come north to find.
I looked at the race through the eyes of P.T. Barnum. He would have loved it. It's a circus. It's a big circus. It's a circus that has all the elements. It's been the greatest show on earth.
Joe Reddington and his pit crew worked and smoothed and bedazzled their way to this impossible venture. 1,000 miles across the Alaska wilderness, sidestepping all of the challengers, a spirit that would give birth to a lifestyle, a legacy, and a tradition that all these years later remains. Fascination or allure would be the drug for the brave souls who first signed up. And don't forget the purse that was promised but was unfulfilled when Dick Wilmarth, bib number 33, left for Nome and the great unknown.
My good friend George Atlas said, well, you know, you can run a dog team 100 miles a day, and so we should be in Nome in 10 days. Wilmarth got there in 20 days, you know, and won the race. Because I like to say that we all were winners that year, and he just got first prize, that's all.
It was a pretty girl. She was Miss Nome. She came over and she was going to kiss me. I didn't kiss her. I figured I smelled too bad.
George Atlas said in Nome while we were waiting around, he called it the Great Camping Trip. And that's pretty much what it was, I think, first race.
I was gone 45 days from the time I left home till I finally got back. And of course I left her with our 10 children. That almost cost me everything.
Who would have known this one-year race would become an institution, a symbol of a state known as the last frontier, and internationally known, a ghost town, the namesake of a dream, and gold of a certain kind that would flow down the Yukon. Who would have known? Volunteers migrated, ready to forge, pilots eager to fly, communities a warm invite, and a town, a cold, brutal town with a wind that rattled and burned, a finish line marked by Kool-Aid, and an arch hovering over a dream. A dream to race, a dream to unite, a dream to protect one of Alaska's greatest gifts, the sled dog. Joe Reddington piloted the dream. He last ran his race in 1997 at the ripe old age of 80 years old. He finished his race 15 times. The first native Alaskan champion, Carl Huntington, and others like the Yukon Fox, Jerry Riley, the Inupiaq, John Baker, and the Kid, Pete Kaiser. Dick Mackey and a 1-second margin. His kiss with immortality by a dog's nose. A legend of the game. Libby Riddles became the first woman to win the race in 1985 when head first into a devastating storm to find the finish line first. Susan Butcher, the sergeant, but man, did she take this to another level, focusing the eyes of the world on this event, proving that the dog's wellness was the key to victory. Rick Swenson, the first to 5, a survivalist and a driver who seemed to fit on the runners like a giant redwood, rigid and unrelenting. A Joe named May, Rick Mackey, a fisherman named Osmar, and Old Joe, a trapper from the Yukon. The era of speed, Boozer, King, and Swingley, 10 consecutive years and 6 speed records, set a bevy of 4-time winners. Norway is in the house. Robert Sorley won 2 of 3, and Yor and Thomas have made 3 from across the pond. A Seavey who followed his father down the trail has gotten there first 3 times. No hitch in Mitch's giddy-up. Lance Mackey, the incomparable Lance Mackey, 4 in a row, survived cancer, survived life. And Dallas Seavey, the phenom, an era that was looming and predictable, and he may put his name at the very top. And then there are the names with no voice, but man, did they have influence. Like Nugget, Red and Bullet, Granite and Furlan and Andy, Blondie and Fearless, Elmer and Pepe, Salem and Larry, Snickers and Velvet and Reef. It's a history striped with names. Reddington, Mackey, Seavey, Boozer, King, Butcher, Swenson, John Rowe. Immortality, a spot in history. But hundreds, thousands of names, like Larry Thompson, the first pilot of the Iditarod, Terry Atkins, the first veterinarian, Joe and Norma Delia. Headliners, but a list of names that would take 50 years to read. All who volunteered, all who gave and continue to give to a race and a dream. Volunteers from all walks of life and every corner of the globe to give to that dream. And 50 years later, it's alive and it's well. This dream.
Old man Reddington had a dream, and people wanted to see it happen, you know, and that's why we're here today.
The greatest thing that the Iditarod ever accomplished was saving sled dogs. Sled dogs were the mode of transportation for hundreds of years in Alaska. And I think the Iditarod saved. I think that's the most important thing that the Iditarod has done.
Before my dad died, Colonel Vaughn come out and was talking to him. He said, "Now, Joe, when you get to heaven now, it ain't gonna be long and I'm gonna get there and I'm gonna need some dogs. So try to find me a good dog team time I get there."
People mush dogs all over the state. Why can't we go to Nome? It's that simple. There's a lot of us who, you know, Joe was older than most of us. And a lot of us, yeah, we can do this. And by gum, we did.
I hope I'm as popular as Joe Reddington Sr. was when I leave this earth. That guy was an incredible person that's done an incredible amount of good for this state. And here we are today in memory of him racing the Iditarod.
But I think all of us owe a lot to old Joe Reddington.
First, that was my biggest fear of the whole Iditarod, was this part right here.
And so it begins.
I'm not really sure what I'm going to do today, but yeah, I always get nervous.
A warm March Saturday morning.
You know, it's just a build up. You just get super nervous. I usually don't eat for a couple days before the race.
The next chapter and final chapter of the race's first 50 years.
Looks like we're going to have potential winter wonderland.
4th Avenue, downtown Anchorage. City streets collide with a wilderness pursuit, and people from all walks of life are here to watch those who will embark on the adventure
I'm stoked to be out there.
of a lifetime.
What do you think of your mom?
It's cool. It's still pretty surreal, but it's super exciting. Kind of feels like a kid on Christmas. They've been waiting to open these presents for a long time, and we're finally here!
The scriptwriters cue the snow.
It's picturesque.
Perfect garnish on this return to the traditional trail.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends from around the world, welcome to the 50th anniversary and ceremonial start of the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race, the last great race.
Today's just having fun, and it's nice to be back here and doing this for the Iditarod.
Never done anything like this.
And back to be on 4th Avenue. That's awesome.
To work with the team is just addicting, and I love them so much.
I would like, of course, to get to Nome, to arrive at Nome, of course, but for me, that it's most important, it's the way, you know? Not really the finish, but the way to arrive.
Hi, everyone.
COVID-19 still a factor, but these teams will travel to Nome. 2021 and the Gold Loop Trail, part of history now.
So that's really exciting, getting to go back to Nome, where I lived for a few years. We're really excited. We have family that's still living there, so it's going to be a bit of a homecoming.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
49 teams have come to be a part of history. A ceremonial start, more of a parade, and on display these dogs that have evolved and who continue to find happiness working and pleasing.
You know, it's another start to the race that gets us going and gets the dogs warmed up and ready for the big day tomorrow where the clock matters.
You know, like you do this and it's like a little bit more relaxed. Everything is prepared up to this point, and so we can go out and like have a little bit of fun with our dogs and our Iditarod.
It's always been my dream. I love this.
And tradition now. Fans have purchased seats in the mushers' sleds. They will travel these ceremonial miles with their favorite teams.
This is my little buddy, the lead dog, and first time I came out was 2007 for Susan Butcher. It was her in memory of her. She was a childhood friend of mine. I haven't been here since then, and I'm so excited to be back.
It's my 40th birthday, and I'm doing it right. I've always wanted to be here, and I'm a Canadian riding with a Canadian. It's fantastic.
Saturday before the real start of the Iditarod is like a walk through practice before a big game.
We're in starting position number...
It's fun, laid back. In less than 24 hours, the pace will change and feelings will change.
It really is a relief to finally pull the hook and get out and just do the one thing, which is go down the trail. All the way up until now, I'm juggling a job and commuting and getting dogs trained and preparing for a race and keeping track of all the other normal household stuff. It just doesn't let up. I won't call it a vacation because it's dang hard out there, but relief to get out on the trail soon.
The snow globe that is Anchorage continues. The teams will run 12 miles and stop, and then will be trucked north for the final evening of preparation for the run to Nome. 50 years and counting, and so we begin. From a snow globe to a Chamber of Commerce kind of day. Warm sun and blue skies veil this Sunday morning. Final stakes are driven and the official start line is raised and hung.
I thought I'd be really nervous, and I think I was really nervous, like, leading into it, like the last couple weeks, not sleeping well, and then like last night I slept great and woke up this morning just like ready to roll. This has been a lifelong dream, and I never thought I'd actually be here, but here we are.
They were laughing at me. We got here first, but I just wanted to get my sled packed, see how everything was going to look, and then I can just sit here and enjoy the day, May never do it again, so I'm going to enjoy every minute of this that I can.
I really liked doing it last time, so yeah, I'm hoping to have fun this time as well. It was a southern route in 2019, so I'll be seeing some new trail.
It kind of comes in waves. For the most part, I'm just excited. I just want to be on the trail. I feel ready.
It's all business now in Willow, 70 miles north of Anchorage, and it's where the storylines of this race begin.
John Williams, the first out of the chute for Iditarod 50.
And the drama that will certainly unfold in these days to come will commence here.
There's a lot of things about the race that I don't know being a rookie, and so, looking forward to getting out there and finding out firsthand. There's only so much good advice you can get, and then you just got to go experience it for yourself.
There's always stuff that comes up. I don't anticipate the challenges. We try to see everything that we're going to see on the trail and training, and so that we can deal with those challenges when they come up pretty easily.
I have to just put my head down and put the horse blinders on and keep going and not make an excuse to add another half hour or, it's really just my mental state. I just need to keep moving.
Hey Clancy, hey Sonny, hey Jocko, Soleil, I love you.
We want to control their speed. I think it's a mistake in this race to go out anything over 10 mile an hour is going to be a detriment, not a wise choice.
I'm preparing like it's going to be 40 below because weatherman has been known to be wrong. So if you go out there thinking this whole race is going to be warm, you're just not prepared to be out in the wilderness of Alaska. So I have all my cold weather gear, extra set of boots because it's going to be wet out there somewhere.
Just seems like there's going to be water crossings and overflow.
Yeah, there's just been so much snow. A lot of the lakes and stuff and rivers, I think, are going to have overflow.
We packed a lot of variety of food for the dogs and things, so I think we'll find something that they're going to really like, and just let them tell us when they need to stop or go.
Three days prior to this race, Nicholas Petit, a contender, tests positive for COVID-19. He can't go, but his dogs will. And a four-time champion and a 30-plus year veteran has one of the great challenges of his career. Nick hands the keys to the car to Jeff King. He will drive a team he's never driven to Nome.
This is incredible. I mean, this is a bluebird day, and yesterday was a storybook Disney snowstorm. It was like being in a snow globe, but really perfect. What a start to this event. To say I haven't fantasized about what this dog is capable of would be a lie.
Good luck.
Clearly, he had every intention of it. An expectation it's a top 10 team. In his mind, they were headed to the winner's circle. That's how we all are when we have a top 10 team.
He's a brave man to do that. I don't know if I'd want to jump on a completely strange team, and he can manage it. That'll be fun.
Mitch Seavey is also back after a year off. He will join Jeff as the oldest on the trail in 2022. Between them, 7 championships and 53 finishes.
3, 2, 1, go. And we're off.
It is definitely a team that could win. It's a competitive team. I have to play my cards right. I have to be patient and let them grow into themselves and then see what they can do.
I remember Joe Reddington leading out of Unacleat when he was in his 70s. There have been some really fun old guys in the race that were highly competitive.
The defending champion, Dallas Seavey, will begin his quest to win a 6th title. It would put him at the top of the heap in Iditarod history.
I have no control over the other teams. You know, Mitch Seavey, Brent Sass, you know, take your Aaron Burmeister, there's tons of good teams out there. I have no control. If they show up with a monster team and totally stomp us, no control. But as long as I know we did everything we could with these dogs, we trained them to perfection, we ran them to perfection, I can be proud of this race, regardless of if it's a first or a 5th place or a 50th place finish.
There are plenty of challengers. It's a field that features 6 former champions and teams from 6 different countries.
I think, you know, Brent, as usual, always brings a really nice team and seems to be real thorough with his training. Obviously, Mitch is back, and I'm sure will be strong, and there's lots of other teams too. Richie's got a nice team. All it takes is one good team to have one of those magic carpet rides or whatever they call it, and they can be right up there and a threat. But yeah, Dallas for sure is the team to beat. He's proven that, and you know, deserves that respect. So he's tough.
All right, Pink, Slater!
I mean, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm 42 years old, and I've never, I mean, I weigh 185 pounds. I've never weighed 185 pounds in the last 15 years. I've worked hard this season. Because of that, it's made me physically strong, and it's made me mentally strong as well.
I think I would be stupid to race it like it is a championship team, but if you take it easy in the start, at least you have the ability to start doing some longer runs and get in the mix. But I don't want to be running a tired dog team right from the edge, from the start, you know.
For Ryan, a nostalgic day, for the Iditarod is linked to his name like no other. It was his grandfather, Joe, who started this race in 1973.
I got my mitts here. I got my warm weather. When my grandpa finished his last Iditarod, you know, in his mushing gear from that race, he is buried in his sled that he crossed the finish line with.
Here's to Joe, and it's off we go in the land of the midnight sun. They call this race the Iditarod Trail. To me, it's Reddington's Run. In my heart, it's Reddington's Run.
This race meant everything to him, and it's really cool to be a part of it and be racing in it, and to be competitive and have my family's support.
31 days for the first Iditarod. I mean, no headlamps, or, you know, like, wow. So I thought that Aaron Burmeister's dad, one time at a wedding, I happened to cross paths with him, and, you know, mouth open, like, really? So really, really, really cool history.
So this will be 4th or 5th race together for all these dogs and myself, and they're veterans, they're experienced, and they're ready to take a victory home to Nome for the 50th anniversary.
For Aaron Burmeister, it's 30 years of almost and not quite. A 2nd place finish a year ago still smarts.
I'm not over it. 2nd place is no different than 50th place, you know. You're just the first loser. And it drove me even harder to put the team together and prepare them for every little thing this year and get them ready to go. And I picked apart the race and picked apart weaknesses in training and weaknesses in the team and prepared them for this year's race.
And 13 rookies will try and reach Nome for the first time. The coveted Rookie of the Year award will be chased.
I have thought about it. It would be fun, but then again, there's a lot of good other rookie mushers with good teams, so I guess it would be like a bonus. But finishing is like, that's the goal.
Thank you guys for helping me get here. I love you and I'm ready to go. I think I'd be lying if I say that didn't sound nice. But quite frankly, I mean, what would thrill me, and I realize it's a lofty goal, but more than anything, I'd love to finish with all my dogs. I've got a really awesome team.
Never thought I would be here, but here we are.
I'm like, how am I possibly going to go for 9 days on sleep deprivation, or 11 days? But I am thinking of more of an 11-day schedule, so hopefully I'll get a little more sleep than those 9-day racers.
For 49 teams, there is no turning back.
Say hi to Sweden, to my family, kids, everybody home. Miss you guys.
Just wish me luck.
For 50 years, dog teams have traveled this trail to Nome. They will be COVID tested daily, and safety will be the first concern. And this is where the story of Iditarod 50 will begin. The teams leave Willow Lake and pop through the trees to find the Yentna River. And the line of fans that greeted them at the start line continues for miles along the trail. It's like a tailgate or the center of the track during the Kentucky Derby. It's a chance for the fans to get up close and personal and to express their admiration for these mushers and their teams. And this may be a first. That's Lance Mackey, a man who for 4 years dominated this trail and is the only musher to win it 4 times in a row. He's a spectator today, a cancer survivor who is now fighting a disease that has come out of remission.
As everybody knows, I have other things I'm dealing with, and father of 2 young kids, and I just couldn't do my treatments and raise kids and train dogs. And there's there's a couple teams here that have some of my dogs in them anyway, so I'm still a little bit of a part. This is the first time I've ever been a part of it, stand on Crystal Lake, that's for sure. This event has allowed us to become somebody. If it wasn't for dog racing in this event, we would just be people with dogs. Remy Smith.
Hey, never seen you before.
No? Not right here, you haven't.
Lance and these thousands of fans will enjoy this day as these teams begin their 1,000-mile journey through a land of unknowns and certain adversities. Mile 53, the first official checkpoint on the race trail. It's called Yentna Station.
Because there's a dog team coming.
The mushers will turn in their bibs here, and many will stop and rest because of the warm temperatures.
We got 14 dogs. I do, yeah.
Michelle Phillips is the first to arrive, followed closely by Martin Massicati.
Thank you.
Jeff King.
Hi.
And Paige Drogan.
Oh, it's good to be on the trail, that's for sure. All the lead up to it is a little bit much. All right, ready?
Thank you all. We'll see you later.
Ready?
All right.
I hope a big snowstorm happens.
Why is that?
I like the snow.
I never gave so many high fives before in my life. That was so much fun to have the crowds out of Willow seem like one of the happiest that I remember of all my Iditarod.
Oh, just the warm weather and a little different team than I had in the past, so I'll take it easy right from the start.
The day is getting longer, the sun lower in the sky, and falling temperatures will be a welcomed adjustment for the mushers and their teams. Denali is out in full alpenglow, and the day could be no more perfect to begin the 50th Iditarod. From Yentna, the teams will head for Skwentna and the Alaska Range. Finger Lake is next, the doorstep to Alaska's highest mountains. Rainy Pass checkpoint at Puntilla Lake. The rise through its pass and down the other side to Roan. A cabin near the Tatina River. Then it's the first native community on the trail called Nikolai. And then McGrath as the teams hit the interior of the state. Takotna not in the mix. This year it's on to Ophir, the official halfway point of Cripple. And from there, 70 miles to the Yukon River and the communities of Ruby, Galena, Nulato, and Keltag. The portage to a new land in the Bering Sea coast as they arrive into Unalakleet, and they no doubt will be greeted with a warm smile and hugs and brutal winds. Shaktoolik is next across sea ice to Koyuk, to Elam, and then to White Mountain. And then it's on to the finish line in Nome. The sun is setting, the trail is cloaked in darkness, and the noise and the outside energy of those supporters along the trail dissipates. And for those on their first camp, it's a chance to relax and take a deep breath.
It was a beautiful start, a little on the warm side, but we're out here on the river right now, and
it's cooled off a bit, and the dogs were getting into stride, and that was kind of a beautiful feeling to farther and farther into the run start having to hold them back more and more and more. So that's also the perfect time to stop.
A little bit warm for the team, but super nice for the musher. I was expecting a little more water on the river, but the trail was actually really good.
I grew up in Alaska watching Iditarod, following all the famous names in the race. Being able to participate in it with my wife is really cool. I'm also carrying my dad's ashes this year, which is a good remembrance, I guess, of him and his relationship to mushing, getting me started in the sport. Mainly as my #1 supporter. He was never a dog musher. He helped me with food drops and driving to races, getting me down the trail. Behind the scenes, he was an incredible support for what I was passionate about.
The teams are already on their planned run-rest schedule. The warm day was forecasted, so a break after Yetna was certainly the plan.
We try to, of course, do better and try the best we can and improve and see where we go, but it's more about the connection with your dogs and just being out there on the trail together.
Watching dogs thrive and perform is incredible. There are no better endurance athletes born on this planet, so it's kind of a privilege to drive a dog team, especially a top caliber Iditarod team, which this one may or may not be. I don't know. If you ask me in 9 days, I will have an answer.
Sean Williams was scheduled to run his rookie race in 2021, but his mother became ill on the eve of the race and later passed. He's now dedicating this rookie run to her memory.
She was an angel, always laughing. You probably couldn't find a video of her where she wasn't laughing. But yeah, she was a great person. As the son, you owe everything to your parents. I'm just very grateful for her. I grew up in Texas, so just having a good life and having the opportunity to jump all the way up here and have this lifestyle is something I'm very proud about.
30 miles from Yetna Station, the teams find the checkpoint of Skwentna.
Welcome to Skwentna!
An old homestead once owned by Joe and Norma Delia. Both impacted decades of races with their volunteer spirit and their love of this race.
8, 10, 12,
15. And it's Ryan Reddington who hit Skwentna first, followed by Michelle Phillips, Mats Pedersen,
Sounds good. Good luck to you. Welcome to Skwentna.
Jeff King, and Aaron Burmeister.
Got you in with 14 dogs? Yes, sir.
It's likely these early teams have chosen this spot for a good long rest for their teams.
Go ahead. It was good. It was pretty hot on the river. We stopped lots to let them cool off and roll in the snow, and then I stopped at Yetna for a half hour to give them some water and let them take a break. And happy to be here.
Think a lot about the great mushers over the years past. A lot about my family. A lot about my grandpa. It's quite the race, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
And I reflected a lot before here the last 2 weeks before this race started, just how special it is just to be a part of it, to see it still going on. It's been my entire life, this event, and being at the finish and know my family being involved since the inaugural race and helping to make it happen. And I've lived Iditarod, and it's incredible to be here and 50 years down the road and to be a part of this event.
Deke Nachtburen is in Skwentna with his first adverse hurdle to climb. He's already broken his brake on his sled, which is a problem with the mountains of the Alaska range in the miles ahead.
My brake snapped in half, and I don't know how I'm going to fix that, so that's a little bit of a stressor. That's not planned for, but I'm going to stay for 4 or 5 or 6 hours. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, I wasn't planning on running 73 straight to get here, but the dogs are looking good, and I was on the brake the whole time, so just let them come into the checkpoint. I heard it was a nice checkpoint, so I'm excited to see what's inside.
All of these teams have a pre-race strategy at least through these opening hours of the race. A prudent run-rest schedule is the name of the game early, and a sense that is heightened with the warmer temperatures. That's Brent Sass. A contender moves through the dark headed for Finger Lake, the next checkpoint. It's common for him to camp his way to Nome, avoiding such checkpoints. Before the sun rises on Monday morning, Paige Drobny, a serious contender, has reached Finger Lake.
What are your thoughts here at this point?
I'm going to take some straw and keep going.
Okay.
It's 4:41 in the morning. She was the 4th team out of Willow. She'll take some food, some water, and straw, and will disappear into the waning dark.
3 years I've always been on the brake, trying to control things. This seems like a lot steadier and just kind of doesn't exert extra effort like the team has in the past. But they're a really strong, solid team.
Richie Deal is next. The team is in its prime, and he figures to be a player in this, his 8th Iditarod. He'll rest in Finger.
It was the most depth I've had with leaders. There was a part of me that actually felt like it was a team that could probably compete to win. Pretty cool, to have a little bit of confidence like that.
Brent Sass is next, and it's predictable.
I just need to get a little bit of straw.
This is a guy who lives remote. He is most comfortable with his dogs on the trail.
Yeah, I'm gonna be off the sled on the first hill and every hill afterwards. There will be no sitting down except for maybe on the Yukon River, and if I'm sitting down, I'm gonna be ski poling. I know that it's picking up pennies. Those seconds count.
Have a great run, Brent.
Brent is out of Finger 20 minutes after Paige drove me.
I'm gonna go through.
All right, straight.
I'll hang out for a while.
Oh, good. How many dogs are you coming in with?
14.
I'm confident in my team's ability to go out there and do what they do well, to travel fast. I am not confident in the outcome of a race. It's a race. Anything can happen. But I feel like the steps that are required to win the Iditarod, the steps up to this point, we have done well. Now, from here on, anything can happen.
Nice day.
Thanks.
Finger fills, teams stay and teams go. It's mile 123 on this trail, a blip on a radar screen. The teams are 12 to 14 hours into their race now.
Expectations for today, I'm gonna go dry my feet out, change my socks, take a nap, eat some food. We'll get out of here hopefully before noon and cruise on over to Rainy and figure out if we're gonna blow through or stay there.
It was warm like I expected, but the trail was really, really hard, so it's a whole different ball game than if it's hot and they're slogging through a soft trail. It was hot, but there wasn't a lot of resistance for them to pull against. It was a really nice, hard-packed trail, so nobody was working too hard in the heat. So, yeah, it was pretty good.
Distance is now being created between the lead and the final team. The more competitive mushers in this field have already begun their move towards the front. Rainy Pass on Puntilla Lake is the next target, just 30 miles from Finger, but it's also historically a tough section of trail. It's 9:38 Monday morning, and Ryan Reddington, who was first into Squentna, is now first into this mountainous-filled eye candy of a checkpoint.
It is 9:38.
So you're going through?
Nope.
Okay.
And Ryan with news of an encounter on the trail.
I saw a moose coming over here. It was on the trail, and when the moose would stop, and I'd stop, and the dogs would bark, and then the moose would keep going again. It ran in front of the team for about 3/4 of a mile, and then it finally exited the trail. I was a little nervous there. The dogs were real excited.
Moose have been an issue for mushers in Alaska all spring. An enormous amount of snow has fallen since the first of the year, making these trails desired by moose for easier travel. And all of these teams now in the Alaska range are on high alert for Alaska's largest deer.
We did a good job on getting to that. Our dogs are trained in Kinnick and in Wisconsin, where it is warmer in both spots than Fairbanks, Our dogs are used to running in warm weather, so they were doing great.
Ryan Reddington has already negotiated some of the toughest sled driving sections in these early days. The Happy River steps are blanketed and softened by feet of snow. Still a difficult section to negotiate. Fun for the dogs, exhilarating for the mushers. The steps or benches on this side of the drop spill out onto Happy River, and that's where we find Seward, Alaska's Travis Beals enjoying a camp with his team.
Going down the steps, I was thinking about videos we watched as kids growing up, everybody wiping out and crashing. It was pretty low-key this year. Although I heard a few people crash. You can hear it from here.
Further ahead on Finbear Lake, prior to Rainy Pass, contender Aaron Burmeister is setting up his run and rest program. He's enjoying the warmth of this early morning.
I changed things up a little bit this year, and I'm stopping here at Finbear, splitting the run between Squentna and Farewell Lakes so that I can run through Roan in one run. So I get them out of Rainy Pass through Dalzell Gorge in the heat of the day and just walk them through it. I don't want speed, I want them to go slow.
Meanwhile, teams are now bearing down on Puntilla Lake, and soon Ryan Reddington won't be alone.
Hey, Richie, welcome to Rainy Pass.
It's Aniak, Alaska's Richie Deal in second place, about an hour and 40 minutes behind Reddington. Then it's Dan Caduce, and he's ready for a rest.
Are you staying or going?
Staying.
Staying?
I make a schedule, but I leave it open for many different possibilities depending on the temperature, the time of day, how good the dogs are eating or feeling at that particular time.
Now you will see teams stop and camp here. You'll start to see teams that will grab supplies and they'll leave. Chances are they won't go far. This checkpoint will fill with airplanes and tourists, otherwise known as distractions to mushers, and their teams trying to sleep.
It's hard because when you haven't slept and you're tired, the emotions get really haywire.
And it's five-time champion Dallas Seavey that begins a new trend.
Drop it, we're going that way. Here, all right, keep.
And Paige Drobny, a minute later, arrives, and she too won't be staying. It's now a revolving door at Puntilla Lake. Mile 153, the sun is high, the air is warming again. Those that leave won't go far. They will camp for a few hours before attacking the Dalzell Gorge and the run to Roan.
The plan was to just get some straw and snacks and go through, but the sun and the heat of the day was just too much, so the dogs needed to just relax, kind of cool off, and then we'll get going down the trail soon.
For my team, I'm happy that we're eating good and not super fast, but have a steady pace and so on. So I'm pretty pleased actually with where we are right now. But so haven't no problem, no bigger problem or so for me.
I do love running through the mountains. So just this whole Rainy Pass stretch, the Dalzell Gorge, assuming it's not too crazy. But I mean, it's been a while. It's been since 2016 that I've been on the Yukon or on the coast. So I'm excited to see it all.
For those that have gone through the checkpoint, we find them stopped and enjoying the quiet and the splendor of this most photogenic area on this trail. Rainy Pass, a tiger with no teeth today, and perfect conditions for an afternoon snooze.
We're about 4 or 5 miles past Rainy Pass. The game plan is undecided as of yet. I left Finger Lake a little bit sooner than I was planning to, but the dogs weren't resting well. It was nice and cool out. I knew it was gonna get hot today. Teams were coming and going and that place was getting busier and busier, and so I figured our time would be better spent down here in the nice warm sun. The plan is to go from here to the next place they need to rest. My life has pretty much been Iditarod since the very beginning. So yeah, I can't help but think about the history of it and all the different people and dogs that have been involved with it. Looking good, buddy. Those are some really bright booties.
Rainy Pass is really noisy and with all the planes and people there, so it's nicer to get out of there. Yeah, I haven't actually been at a checkpoint yet. It's kind of nice on the side of the trail.
Never camped out up here, so it's kind of a bucket list thing, you want to knock off the list. A lot of people were pretty successful with the strategy last year, and I'm trying to get more strategic with it. The greatest memory for me of the first day and a half is that every time I camped, those dogs would just eat and devour 5 gallons of food. So I could tell right away that the heat wasn't affecting them, the pre-race stress wasn't affecting them, and that we were off to a good start.
I feel pretty privileged to be one of the mushers that are carrying the torch here, and it's pretty awesome. It's a long-standing tradition, and I was just rocking out some Hobo Jim and talking about Reddington's run and how Joe Reddington got this all started. It's kind of crazy that we're still out here traveling down the same trail that they established 50 years ago.
Little does the rest of the field know, but Dallas has a chink in his armor. His team isn't feeling well.
I just did a short 35-mile run. I'm like, we're going to use this as a reset, an easy run. I gave them a 4-hour break, which is obscenely long rest. We've got to just get them eating, and we're just breaking them into the routine. I know this dog team, if they get eating and on the right schedule, they're untouchable. So I stopped. Not one of them touched a thing. This isn't good. I stayed there for a full 4 hours, snacked them before I left, and a couple of them ate all right. And I'm thinking, all right. So they're not tired. I can check that off the list of why they're not eating.
The afternoon ticks away. The pace of the Iditarod doesn't really allow teams to rest an entire afternoon anymore. The heat of the day is negotiated now like every other obstacle on this trail. Sit too long and the race will pass you by.
I'm doing really good. The team's doing really good. I'm a little brain dead at the moment, but yeah, things are going well, and I'm excited to continue on and go past Ophir and not come back. keep going on, see all those villages and get onto Nome. That's exciting.
The big one is the heat. I mean, if you think about us as humans, if we were to go in like a hot sauna, we probably wouldn't feel like eating a cheeseburger or something. That's kind of the way I think of it. These guys have been training in 20, 25, 40 below all winter long, and all of a sudden we stick them in 35, 36 degrees above zero. It's hot for them. It's really hot.
I don't know what to expect, but I'm not looking that forward to it, I think. I haven't heard good things about it, so we'll see.
Welcome to Roan. Here we go.
It's 5:42 Monday evening, and Ryan Reddington, who remains in the lead of the race, is the first team to arrive into Rome.
Short term.
188 miles into this race. There was a time that it was unheard of for a team not to stop in Rome for rest.
Out of Rome here, it's really icy, and that way they have better traction. That way they don't slip and slide.
Does it hurt their paws or anything?
No, not to be. I'll watch them closely, but it is better for them to take the booties off going over clear ice.
Ryan leaves Roan before anyone else arrives. He's got straw, he'll stop and camp soon. Aaron Burmeister is next, 18 minutes after Reddington.
I'm going to go through, but I need to get food and straw. Is there anybody close behind me?
He's in a hurry to go because of rumors of a tough trail just outside of this checkpoint.
I'm just anxious to get across this river before dark.
Why's that?
Just, we've heard nothing but nightmare stories from iron doggers about the crossing, from the bike So I did ITI and everything else, and all the rumors going back to town, so it's had me anxious now for several days.
Burmeister is in Roan for 22 minutes, and he's gone.
Kill me, guys.
Before darkness shrouds the trail.
2 down, 46 to go.
Milla Porsild is the next to arrive 12 minutes after Burmeister leaves. She won't be going anywhere.
And are you staying a while?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
The teams are now pouring into Roan. And in many years of this race's history, Roan has been a MASH unit. It's also been a sled mechanic's garage. But most of all, it's been a place to give thanks if you've made it through in one piece.
I heard there's supposed to be water when we leave here.
So when you go out, there's not. It's much better than last year, and it's
That's
actually
good to hear.
It's got some snow for good traction.
Nice. Tell me more good news.
My main leader, I'm going to be leaving here. He's got some sort of stomach bug. So hopefully another one steps up. I got a lot of leaders, but he was the dog.
I had kind of a shit show, actually. It was like right at that light that's like terrible. You know, you can't see with a headlamp and you can't see like flat light. I ended up in this like hole, flipped my sled, and then I lost my headlamp, but I didn't know it because I didn't have it on. I didn't know it for like a couple hundred yards. Then I had to park the team and run back and get it. So I'm like soaked through.
I'm going to Ophir for sure, yeah. That's the only place I send stuff out to.
Why Ophir?
I like the remoteness of it, and I like to visit the people there. I'm even bold enough to go there after last year.
To get to Roan, you've made it through the Alaska Range, the Steppes, the Pass, and most recently the Dalzell Gorge. It's the boogeyman in the closet for rookies, and a yearly test for those that know it. Open water, cliff walls, snow bridges that will only deteriorate with every team that goes over them. And in the dark, a headlamp becomes a life-saving instrument, or at the very least, a reminder that natural selection is waiting if you've forgotten it. For those that left Roan, they are camping on their way to Nikolai. They have picked their place within an hour or two of the checkpoint.
That was a crazy run. Reminds me of 2014. A little out of control. When there's no snow, it's just crazy. And these dogs didn't want to slow down at all, so made it harder.
How are you doing?
I'm tired right now, but I don't think I hurt anything or broke anything. I did some crashing and stuff. But we're here, so I'm fine.
Awesome.
I just got to lay down for a while.
It's 75 miles to Nikolai, the first native community on the trail. And as it's common knowledge now, the winner is most often in the top 10 here, certainly in the top 15. But make no mistake, it's an accomplishment just to make it here in one piece. And as you're about to find out, this section of the trail lived up to its reputation. Aaron Burmeister is the first to arrive, 7:38 Tuesday morning, 13 dogs. This 20-year veteran of the race is in the lead.
It was a very rough, mogul-y trail, and lots of clear ice, lots of water, lots of jumbo ice. You know, growing up in Nome, the best thing to compare it to is when I was a kid, we used to run dogs through jumbo ice on the ocean. And it was like running through jumbo ice on the ocean. You could never let go of your handlebars, and it kept you on your toes nonstop. I ended up camping at Farewell Lakes after going through Roan. And of course I was wet up to my knees from all the water crossings, and my snow pants were wet. But it was 45 degrees that night at 2 in the morning and 30-mile-an-hour winds. And I had some straw twine from the straw I packed out there, and I tied it off between the trees. I hung my Neos, my Lobans, my boots, my snow pants up on a clothesline between the trees in the wind. And they were bone dry in 2 hours. It was just like a summertime wind, and dried all the clothes out, which was nice.
Hey, Ryan.
Can you climb?
33 minutes later, Ryan Reddington remains near the front. He arrives with all 14. Richie Deal is 18 minutes behind Ryan. The first 3 teams arrive in Nikolai and shut it down. They'll rest.
It was like 70 miles of a motocross track at 9-10 miles an hour, so you got to remember every bump pretty well. Every bump, every moose hole. I mean, it was just everything, a little bit of everything.
And it's Brent Sass who at 9:12 Tuesday morning will assume the lead of this race.
I'm just going to blow through, but I want to drop this guy.
He'll leave 1 dog and head for McGrath with 13.
All right, buddy, I'm sorry. You're going to be much better off hanging out here.
This is typical of Brent Sass. He avoids checkpoints if at all possible. He's headed for McGrath with straw. He'll stop.
Good dog.
I got 14. There's one ride.
And 4 minutes after Brent leaves, 5-time champion Dallas Seavey rolls in. That's not because he's chasing Brent. His race plan has him set up to camp outside of McGrath. You have to assume that both Brent and Dallas will stop on their way to McGrath because they're carrying straw.
And then that can be
thanks, guys.
But it's not certain. Mushers have done this in the past as a decoy, dropped the straw on the trail and then kept going. Time will tell.
I watched them go through. I mean, I kind of expected it, just knowing and seeing what they did last year. Brent, I was expecting him, he'd probably go to cripple. And Dallas, I wasn't sure what he was going to do.
Nobody will react to those teams in front. It's way too early. If their teams need a rest, they'll stop here and give it to them. As the sun gets higher and once again the air gets warmer, and now we get an understanding of the trail just traveled.
The bumps were the worst. All the moguls, just impossible to get the dogs running. It's just constant bang, bang, and it's super hard on the dogs, I think.
Leaving Roan, there was a lot of water on the river, a lot of overflow just before you hit the entrance of the trail. And my dogs hugged where there was a bunch of trees and a stump. Went through there, a stump, boom, I hit it, and then they kept pulling, and then the stump was stuck back here on the stanchions. And I had to get off the sled and pull it off in the water. And that was the start of my day.
I've heard of a few beat up sleds and some beat up mushers, but yeah, looking around, there's plenty of big teams here, and they're pretty amazing animals. They just kind of glide over everything you throw at them. I wasn't planning on racing with the front pack early on, but if things went real well later and panned out, there could be some moving up, but it's hard to tell right now. But there's definitely a lot of race left.
This video provided by Paige Drobny is on the trail in the Farewell Burn.
This is what we've been doing for hours.
The run from Roan just generally sucks pretty bad. There's the first part, there's no snow. There was like a bit of a windstorm, probably like 30-40 mile an hour winds, and so you're on a drag mat and you have a dust storm around your eyeballs and you can't see anything, and the dogs have really good traction and just really want to run really fast, and so that's pretty brutal. And then it's just like the sound that you heard in the video too is just sort of like a constant banging where there's no snow at the beginning, and then we get to the part where it's just these like massive wind drifts that were like 2-foot swells in the ocean or something, just constant 2 or 3 foot swells and constantly like that for like 4 hours.
I took my raincoat and stuff, and I brought an extra pair of Neos right outside Roan. Maybe there's open water, but nobody really knew, and it wasn't open water, but it was a lot of overflow. Right when we left the checkpoint there, we probably had a good 80-yard stretch of 10 inches of overflow or water.
Those in Nikolai have first-hand knowledge of what those in Roan will soon confront with the condition of that trail. Jeff King, running Nicholas Petit's team, has arrived and has rested in Roan. Now traveling with Amanda Otto, they prepare to leave together.
They get wound pretty quick, but really well behaved. I guess Nick's did tours and stuff with them. I took a pretty good spill coming down the gorge right at the end. Broke my glasses, hit my head, and sprained my ankle and my knee. So pretty sure I'll be all right as long as it's just as nice and smooth as it usually is out here.
You know, it was actually fun. We had a nice thing of snow, so I think that might have made it a little different than in years prior. But yeah, I couldn't ask for a better first run thus far.
We wish them well. Zoom forward now. On the other side of Nikolai, both Dallas Evie and Brent Sass, as predicted, have stopped. Not within sight of one another, but both seem to be on a similar plan.
We went through Nikolai and I had a full sled. I got 3 gallons of water to make my life easy and everything. And the trail is nice, you know, the trail's hard on the river. And so we got moving good, and then I just figured we're gonna go until we start to slow down, you know, or it's about this time it was an 8-hour run. We made it to here from our camp out before Nikolai. Dogs look good, they're happy, they're eating good.
Each year you're gonna have a different trail, a different dog team, different weather, probably a different goal as far as where you want to be in the race at certain points. So it's not like, oh, this is my style, this is how I do it. So yeah, I haven't stopped here before. So I guess it is new in that regard.
I'm gonna go all the way to Ophir as long as trail and everything go well. And this just makes that run a little bit shorter.
Your realistic options are McGrath, Ophir, or Cripple, and obviously since I'm camping here, I'm not stopping in McGrath, so Ophir or Cripple become the next two. And it really is undecided until we're there.
In 2021, this is almost the exact spot that Dallas won the race. Brent went through Nikolai and stopped. Dallas passed Brent on this run and went to McGrath for his 24-hour layover and built a 3-hour lead that he surrendered. Brent rested for those 3 hours. It was a shorter race, but no doubt it brings back anxiety.
I thought about that all year, and I just said there's no way that I'm going to let that happen again. I was thinking about that, and I was keeping an eye on like a little bit of what Dallas was doing just because of that, because I didn't need him to make any of those moves.
When the teams leave Nikolai, they will now be on their push to their first mandatory stop on this trail. There are 3 of them. A 24-hour stop that can be taken anywhere, an 8-hour rest to be taken somewhere on the Yukon River, and an 8-hour rest in White Mountain, 77 miles from the finish line. In McGrath, they prepare for the leader, and an award will be presented by the wife of an Iditarod legend, Ken Chase. He ran the first Iditarod in 1973, and many more.
He did the first 10 or 15 of them, and my dad is from Graylin, and he was the checker since they started running that route, and I used to help him. It was a big family event for us to take care of the Iditarod mushers.
Good job, man! Good job! Woo!
And it's not Sevey or Sass reaching McGrath first.
What's your plan? You gonna be here for a little bit?
Declare 24 and go to 24 parking, but probably
sure, sounds good.
It's Aaron Burmeister. He's 311 miles into the 50th Iditarod. He'll be presented the beaver mitts and will be COVID tested, as will all of the mushers coming through this checkpoint.
Well, thank you very much.
You're
Is this from yourself or the community?
Well, it's from Alaska Air Transit.
Oh, wonderful.
And Josie orders them for me each year. And those are all handmade.
Gorgeous. No, it's an honor. They'll keep my hands
warm.
And
this is for being the first team into McGrath. This is their Spirit of Alaska award on behalf of all the people at Alaska Air Transit. And this is also from Lucy Miller. That's yours.
Wonderful.
And seeing how you went so fast coming into Nikolai, Andrew Runkle, this was your gift from Andrew. And Andrew made these himself. They didn't get down in time, but this is for your...
Also trapped.
Yeah. Right on, bud.
Yeah, so this is the...
Oh, what a...
So you're loaded up.
Ryan Reddington remains near the front and hits McGrath.
You gonna go through?
I'm staying.
30 minutes behind Burmeister. And Richie Deal is 15 minutes behind Ryan. He arrives to family in McGrath.
Richie, ready to give you a hug.
Those 3 teams stop for now. Aaron Burmeister is changing his runner plastics. It often happens after damage has been done to their surface or for changing trail conditions, and Aaron is still not sure what his plan is.
I will decide here after I feed the dogs and see how everybody eats and just go from there. I'm not in a hurry to do anything, but I'd like to go on. But we'll see how everybody's eating and feeling and go from there.
And with Aaron still up in the air, Dallas Seavey arrives.
I think I should stop here.
And that means he'll stop in McGrath, but he won't be staying long.
I was doing better. You've got to have a versatile team that is smart enough to run in the warm weather, and you understand that you're going to give up a little bit of speed, but you're also going to understand that you're going to accept the benefit of doing less damage. Especially early in the race, that's the greater value. If I can get 200 miles down the trail and my dogs are running at 8 miles an hour instead of 9.5 miles an hour, that's great.
We got Dallas Seavey's in at 18:45 or 44, and we think Brett Sass is going to be in shortly. All right, welcome to McGrath. How's it going?
And sure enough, Brent Sass arrives, just 9 minutes behind Dallas.
I did execute a little better. I got past places farther than I would have in the past. Like I got farther past, got 20 miles on Nikolai instead of 10, so that run to Ophir was only 70 instead of 80, which is a huge difference.
Oh. And Brent keeps the mystery alive. He'll stop somewhere, but where and for how long remains to be seen. The sun will soon be setting, and this race is about to shake out.
It's warm, but it doesn't seem that bad. The dogs still seem to be doing all right. I mean, it'd be great if it cooled off, and it doesn't sound like it's going to do much.
Many teens will work on their sleds here, change plastics, or even change sleds. And many of these mushers have had very little sleep now, more than 50 hours into the 50th Iditarod.
I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna see what I think as I'm going.
And after a 3-hour, 41-minute rest, Dallas Seavey is back on the trail, the fourth team to go. Canada's Aaron Peck becomes the fourth team to leave. He blows through with no rest, 19 minutes after Dallas.
Iditarod's a roller coaster of emotions. You could have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. My grandpa ran in the Iditarod 19 times. My dad ran in it 14 times, and my uncle Joey and my brother Ray, he ran in it I think 17 times. And definitely a family thing for us to be part of the race.
I'm really proud to be a part of this iconic, historic event. And, you know, I've always just looked up to all the old timers of the race. You know, that's where I get all my information from, and those are the stories that I love to hear, so it does mean a lot to me.
With 4 teams now on the trail headed to Ophir, Aaron Burmeister makes the executive decision to stay in McGrath. He'll be the first in the lead pack to begin a 24-hour rest.
I was getting my sleds packed, everything set to go to head over to Cripple tonight, and I was laying there taking a nap and I couldn't sleep. I was sitting there thinking, we've run the dogs through a lot of heat since the start. We've run them through the most hellacious moguls I've seen in a lifetime. I mean, it reminds me of when I was a kid running dogs in Nome out on the ocean and running through jumble ice. We've done about 140 miles of jumble ice getting here to McGrath. Typically when I'm putting boots on, they're barking to go, they're fired up, and they didn't have that animation. They didn't have that just, let's get out of here attitude.
It's 41 miles to the next checkpoint of Ophir. Brent Sass has arrived with 13 dogs. It's 12 minutes before midnight.
I'm going to stay for at least a few hours. You always wonder what Dallas is going to do. You know, he's a question mark on all fronts. It's impossible to really know exactly what his plan is. He's on his way here right now, and whether he stays here or goes to Cripple, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. To me, I'm gonna get up and go here probably in a couple hours and go to Cripple and see where the cards fall after that.
Keep in mind, Dallas stopped in McGrath for nearly 4 hours. Brent will have to rest in Ophir. He may not be the first team to leave this checkpoint.
Good job.
At 1:23 in the morning, Richie Deal, having one of his best races, is second into Ophir. He'll stay.
Take my 24. Okay. My goal was to get to Ophir. When we made that run, Nikolai to McGrath, I was like, wow, these dogs they look good, they're moving good. It's cooling off, nighttime's rolling in. It's like, I have to go to Ophir, you know. Hey guys, how you doing?
And now nearly 3.5 hours off the pace is Milla Porsil, the 2020 Rookie of the Year and a 5th place finisher in 2021.
I'm stopping for 24.
Okay.
350 miles into the race with better than 600 miles to go. The lead pack comes into focus. The contenders are in McGrath and Ophir. And in a few minutes after Milla arrives, a team is on its way to Cripple, the halfway point.
Stop here? Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. Hey, boys.
What's your plan, Dale? You're going through?
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's now 3:42 in the morning.
Yes, straw, meat, salmon, beef, chicken skins, dog food. I think that's all I needed.
Dallas Seavey takes supplies, and the leader of this race is on his way to Cripple.
Thank you.
He still may beat me there, who knows, but we're gonna give it a go.
18 minutes after Dallas leaves, Brent Sass has his team off the straw and ready to roll.
All right, good dog. Time to warm it up.
After a 4-hour, 20-minute rest, Brent and his 13 dogs disappear into the darkness. Ryan Reddington is the next to hit Ophir, 9 minutes after Sass departs.
4:16.
Yeah, I'd like to just stay a few minutes and get water and get some supplies.
And Ryan becomes the third team to commit to going to Cripple.
Thank you.
Ryan leaves. Jesse Holmes arrives. He's in a great position and mood.
This is my 4th time coming to Ophir, so it's just kind of a nice place to be. Nice and quiet, but who knows how many people will come here, but that doesn't matter either, because I'm here pretty quick so I can get a pick of a spot.
The teams move through the dark. It's now been days since any real sleep, and they're now into the longest stretch to this point in the race. It's 73 miles to Cripple. With the sun now up on day 3 on the Iditarod Trail, Brent Sass has now leapfrogged Dallas Seavey and is back in the lead. Ryan Reddington, Hugh Neff, and Mitch Seavey are also moving to Cripple. As they continue their run to Cripple, the others are resting in Ophir and McGrath.
You're definitely keeping an eye on them and where they're going and stuff, but this first half of the race, to me anyway, getting your team into a rhythm. And then, once we leave our 24, see how they're doing and then kind of start doing a little racing from there.
I listen to all the interviews you guys put together, and, any small piece of information can be turned into a lot for you, and talked about how if he could get his dogs to the 24 to where they were eating right away at their first meal, that he was just could go and just go to sleep for 6 hours, and then he's on a routine of feeding them every 6 hours. And I was just really praying that they kept it up like they've been doing everywhere, and they did.
Kind of has 2 nicknames, Hank the Tank and Hanky Panky.
Why does he have that particular name?
Hanky Panky just because it sounds nice. And I'm a foreigner, so, the words don't mean that much to me. It's just, it comes off the tongue easily. He's a really, really great leader. And his greatest forte is that he just goes forward no matter what.
We just saw a bug. We saw a mosquito. It's so crazy. Oh my God.
Is that the first time you've ever seen a mosquito on the Iditarod Trail?
Yes.
For sure, yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's
crazy.
so warm.
Is the forecast for any cooler weather coming?
I don't know. Nothing would surprise me at this point.
Oh my God. At least we're not in McGrath.
So have you ever seen a mosquito on this trail before?
I have not.
Nope. I've never seen mosquito in March on Iditarod before, no.
About 130 miles back towards Anchorage, we find teams still making their way to Nikolai, which means they're neck deep in the farewell burn. And it's been an adventure of a lifetime.
There was no snow, as you saw, so there was even puddles in mud. Like I was sliding in mud. The front of my sled bag is covered in mud, and the dogs' faces are covered in mud, and my feet were covered in mud. And so when there was snow, we would just stop and I'd let them roll around and eat some snow and make sure they get lots of snacks and hydration. It's the only way you can make it work for them. Going through the range was more spectacular than I could ever imagine. Like, you know, you've seen the pictures and the videos, but those mountains were so huge. The peaks were so big. I was like, I feel like I'm in the Alps. It's amazing. You can't even explain it to other people unless you're out there on that trail.
For me, I kind of struggled more mentally in the first part. Coming where I'm from too, it's like really remote. Like I'm way out in the sticks, and you know, it's just us out there. And then you come down to Anchorage and it's like all the people and it's crazy. It's just extremely overwhelming. And then it goes straight back to like, okay, race. The reality and the gravity of the situation kind of sets in, and you're like, oh.
I woke up early this morning, maybe 3 a.m. in Rainy Pass, and I had a text from Jeff. We both have inReaches. He said the burn is literally death-defying. He's like, not to scare you, but you need to show some respect for it. So that was scary to get that message. But I mean, I was already scared of the burn, so I was like, okay, like I know it's gonna be bad.
As he begins his fourth day on the trail, Brent Sass is the first to hit Cripple. It's 3:50 in the afternoon. Brent is 425 miles into the race.
Nice mashed potatoes you guys got out here.
This is the official halfway point.
It was an adventure getting here. The trail was very varied. It started out nice and hard and fast, and we were cruising, and then it went to a complete slog for a couple hours, a really punchy, slow trail, and then it kind of was in between that all the way here.
And because he's first here, Brent receives the Dorothy G. Page Halfway Prize.
On behalf of GCI and the Iditarod, and the Dorothy Page Award goes to Brent Sass.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Really happy to be here, and really appreciate you guys' support of the race, and yeah, just stoked to be here.
Yeah. Well, you have a choice. And we went through this, we talked about it. Brent has taken he has a choice between a new phone with a year's contract or the gold.
Yep.
And 3 out of 4 years has been the gold. Are you changing up this year?
No, the gold is the one.
I happen to have some.
Oh, right. Good. It's in a nice colored booty there, too. I see that.
So, you want to hold that?
Yeah. Dog bowl, that's perfect. Oh, that sounds very, very nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, you want me to carry that, or you want to carry
you can
it
have
on
this
the sled?
stuff, that's for sure.
You don't want the extra weight?
Nope, definitely don't need the extra weight.
And we'll make sure we have it for you up in Nome.
All right, appreciate that very much.
Zoom back to McGrath.
I'm excited about the run to come and get safely to Cripple and beyond and be able to get back home again.
Aaron Burmeister is coming off his 24-hour rest in McGrath, 114 miles off the pace. But his team is fresh and ready to roll, having rested. But it's snowing. The trail is slowing.
You know, if it's 2 or 3 or 4 inches, it's not going to make a crazy difference. But if we got, 8 or 12, then it's definitely going to change things a bit.
And back to Cripple. Brent is there for 3 hours when Dallas Seavey arrives.
By the time I got to Cripple, we were 3 hours behind Brent, which I was very happy about, to not be more than that behind, and still I felt I was in the race.
It's well after dark when the other teams arrive in Cripple. Hugh Neff, Ryan Reddington, and then Mitch Seavey. All 5 teams there declare their 24-hour rest and take it. They won't see another team arrive for hours.
I mean, I'm going, okay, there's an hour. and there's 2 hours. It's like, yeah, okay, this is good. In the 24, you have to sit back and go, okay, but you look who you're with here. You know, Dallas CV, Mitch was there at that point, and then Ryan, and I'm just like, and we're still unsure of whether we made the right move going to Cripple. Every race you make that gamble.
Back in Ophir, it's obvious changes are coming. Aaron Burmeister reaches this checkpoint, and the skies are unloading. The trail is changing.
Easy, easy.
Welcome to Ophir.
And after 41 miles, Burmeister stops again.
I'm gonna stay. Good spot to stay for a few hours. What that did is, of course, by the end of the 24, McGrath had 4 to 5 inches of snow on the way to Takotna. It was 8 inches deep going over the hill.
It's 2:27 in the morning, and Richie Deal is now on the trail. There is fresh snow, but he's coming off his long rest. The race is on.
He did tell me, he said, "What time are you leaving?" And I said, "Well, I have to leave at this time." He said, "Well, I'm going to go behind you." I said, "Yeah, well, go figure." I'll put a trail in for you, Aaron.
I broke trail through 4 to 5 inches of snow on the way here from McGrath, so I don't think it's going to be a hard, fast trail to Cripple.
Less than an hour later, the trail between Ophir and Cripple fills again. Burmeister is back on the trail, followed by Porsild and Travis Beals.
Leaving Ophir, Richie Deal was coming off his 24 in Ophir. We ended up breaking trail to Carlson Crossing. We broke trail all the way to Cripple because we were leading the race. At that point, everybody else was either behind us coming off a 24 or resting in Cripple. And the winds out there were 40, 50 miles an hour. It was just a field of white. So we had roughly from Ophir to Cripple, 80 miles of trail breaking.
And when the sun rises, there are 12 teams on the trail between Ophir and Cripple, all having taken their 24-hour rest.
But it was a job, it was a workout on the dog team. And it separated us from that front pack. It was something that Mother Nature got in the way, so all of a sudden it gave those guys that were in Cripple a big advantage on us of about 5 hours because of the travel time. We got separated by a storm.
In Cripple, they rest and recharge. The warm days continue, and it's perfect for these teams to soak it all in. It's here where you can really start to compute where everyone is. Ryan Reddington is nearly 5 hours off the winning pace.
It is what it is. I'm glad we're here for the 24, and I'm proud of the race that I've ran so far. I got here with 13 dogs, and it's been going good.
We're still in the game, which is nice. We're within striking range. We're not out of it. In my mind, I figured we're so far out of this at this point, and I just haven't been in checkpoints much to see timesheets or anything, so this is the first chance I've gotten to see. But if these guys start eating, then we've got a heck of a dog team.
I don't like taking a beating for half the race with hard moguls like that mostly, and I had some adventures in the typical notorious places where I actually didn't keep my sled slippery side down the whole time and all that, but I'll try to put that out of my mind, keep going forward. But I'm doing okay. I'm actually feeling better than I usually do.
In McGrath, others reflect on their race to this point.
It was a very rough trail coming across the burn and into Nikolai. But I have a whole bunch of real powerful dogs, so they were trying to kick my butt.
So this is Jenna. She's an 8-year-old female. She's kind of our kennel matriarch. She's a pretty incredible leader. She's, like I said, she's 8. She actually lives inside full time with us right now. And then when we go out and train, we just open the door and she runs down to the dog yard and gets all excited. So this is going to be her last race before she retires.
As I was mushing down the trail the last couple of days, I'm thinking they're like my kids. The line of canine and human is blurred, and it's true. You talk to them like your kids and you treat them like your co-workers, and it's just such a interesting relationship we have with these athletes. They're so special and so gifted.
I got to take a nap on a bunk that was once occupied by Jeff King, Martin Boozer. I'm a big fanboy, so I'm living the dream right now. This is like, I just ran that last leg with Jeff King running Nick Petit's team in front of me, and I'm just like, people watching this will understand, but most people don't. Like, it's a big deal for me. So,
as the teams keep battling their way from Ophir and these 73 miles, we catch up to a few of them camped and resting and feeding. Chad Stoddard is assessing his broken sled, and he's staying positive for his dogs.
So far, most enjoyable thing, just standing behind these dogs. They've been performing amazing, and just super pleased with them, and they're doing awesome.
I'm just so thrilled to be sharing the trail with these incredible mushers, the best teams around the world. And, this is my 9th Iditarod now, and yeah, it was important to me to run the 50th and give it my best shot. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The race has come so far, and the history, it's cool. I've been, enthralled by the race since I was a kid. So to be out here running the trails with these other teams is just a dream come true.
As the day grows older, it's Brent Sass who's now preparing to leave Cripple and enter the second half of this race.
Keep it conservative and don't do any big pushes, and just keep marching down the trail, trying to maintain our speed, and focus on my teaming for another few hundred miles before I start thinking about the competition.
It's 4:36 in the afternoon, and Brent Sass dashes from Cripple. He's now on his way to the Yukon River, and his lead is now factual and measurable. It's 70 miles to this next checkpoint of Ruby.
Like, I realized when I left Cripple that I had the opportunity for Dallas to never see me again in the entire race. And I knew that would cripple him. And I knew that would frustrate him. And it would frustrate me.
It's Richie Deal, who is the next team to arrive into Cripple. Better than 90 minutes after Brent left, he's in a hurry.
Going through.
It was slow. It was the most trail breaking I've ever done in a race. There's a big part of me that was kind of shocked at how much of a lead Brent had left there in front of me, And I still had to go do another rest too. So I was like, man, he's got a pretty good lead on me right now.
Aaron Burmeister is just 6 minutes behind Richie. And as Deal leaves, it's Burmeister who will pull in and rest. He took his 24 in McGrath, Richie in Ophir. The wind is blowing. This will help keep the dogs cool. It may make it slower going, but Brent, coming off his 24-hour rest, has a strong and energized team.
Good dogs.
And now Dallas Seavey and his team are up off the straw and ready to rumble. This 5-time champion is now 3 hours and 17 minutes behind Brent. Oddly enough, about the same time that separated them in 2021, only it was Dallas in the lead then.
It started snowing right when I was coming into Cripple. This was in the forecast, the snow and wind, and that was a big portion of my want to push to Cripple, was to get past this weather. And that really, I think, helped us. The teams that came afterwards had a much harder trail, and that could have gone either way.
Get on the trail! Welcome to Cripple.
Cripple now fills with the chasers. With darkness set, the lead of the race is now in front of these teams by hours. But with 500 miles to go, they all know that anything can happen, and it will be their purpose to stay within striking range.
He's staying.
Hey, Dan.
Camped on his way to Ruby is Jesse Holmes. He's 30 miles into this 70-mile run.
That I haven't been bummed out once. And I mean, that's just unheard of out here. This is a race of ups and downs. So I imagine I have some down points coming, but, I've just been really focused and really happy, and just happy with my dogs, and running my race and running my team. Brent and the people that came over, they're 24 and Cripple, they had a really good trail, but I had a wind-blown, drifted trail, and I still did it faster than them. you know, with the way this team's eating, having 14 dogs and that, there's a lot of racing left to do.
My goal was to come in the top 10, so I was there. So I didn't feel the anxiety of, oh, these guys got an advantage. I was where I wanted to be, you know, and what I did from there would take care of what position I got in the top 10.
Right there, Brett. Right here, Brett.
Oh, hey, Billy, how's it going?
Before the sun comes up on Friday morning, Brent Sass hits Ruby. He's now 495 miles into the race.
I'm going to go, unfortunately. I got to get on the trail.
And there is an award here, a gourmet meal and some cash, provided by the Lakefront Hotel in Anchorage. But Brent won't be staying.
It was a bummer. But, you know, I mean, I felt like the last time I took and went all the way to Ruby after my 24, I felt like it took a little bit of steam out of the dog team, a couple runs down. And I felt like I kind of erased my benefits in my 24 by doing that run straight through. I mean, I only stopped, you know, it was maybe 15 miles before, but that's a big difference between a 55 and a 70-mile run or whatever. It's a big difference.
And 5 minutes after he arrives, Brent is on his way to Galena, 50 miles down the Yukon River. So while Brent is working hard and the checkpoint awaits another team, it's longtime checker and Ruby legend, Billy Honey, who gets to enjoy this meal.
I know Brent for a long time, about 25 years or more. He's gonna make a move here.
It remains a 3-hour lead for Brent Sass when Dallas Seavey arrives next.
Thank you. We're going to stay a very short amount of time, like hopefully less than 5 minutes. And roll on down the road.
It's 9:01 Friday morning, and the magnificent Yukon River is in full view. And with 12 dogs and just 7 minutes after his arrival, Dallas Seavey heads down the river.
What if we raced this race completely blind? What if we had no knowledge of where any other musher was? What if I just ran this entire 1,000 miles and didn't know if Brent was 5 hours ahead of me or 10 hours behind me, or if I was in first by 10 hours or in 20th position? How would I run the race differently? In the truest sense, that's what we should do. You really should run your dog team and get them to know them as fast as possible. There is no better odds of winning the race than getting your team to the finish as fast as possible.
25 minutes later, the others begin to pull into Ruby.
I'm going to stay here for 8 hours.
Jesse Holmes is first.
Then I was starting to think, okay, well, we might have a shot at the top 5 in this thing if we keep this patience going. And we had to break some trail that Brent and all those guys didn't have to. But that didn't matter. That's actually good for my team. That's cushion for them. That's more what they're used to. That's a good reason to slow them down and keep them together. And so that allowed me to get to Ruby with 14 dogs.
Richie Deal is on his back porch, and both teams declare and take their 8s.
So when we pulled in, we took our 8 there, and it definitely set us up better because we ended up leaving Ruby at night. Still, we definitely weren't the fastest, and it was a head scratcher. There were other teams that were just flying, and I was like, wow.
Ruby fills quickly with the next pack, and one has to wonder if these teams will ever see Brent and Dallas again. We find Dallas Seavey camped on the river prior to Galena. He can only forecast what Brent might be doing.
Judging by piles of straw that I passed along the way, I'm assuming that Brent went to Galena for his 8, which makes sense. Or maybe he just takes a short stop and moves on, but I don't think he stopped that long out on the trail. Not that it really matters yet, right? We got a few more days a few more runs before it really starts to matter. Right now, I think I've got a great plan for the last part of this race.
And good news for Dallas. The bug that was slowing his team seems to have passed.
They've just been devouring food. This last run, we went through almost 50 pounds of food between Cripple and Ruby for just 12 dogs. I mean, every hour we're stopping and just filling them up, and they'll eat until they're like little balloons, and then an hour later they're ready for more. So I'm gonna try to get them filled up and then back off a little bit on the food just to keep them with that appetite. But if we go into the coast with that, I think we have a real fighting chance.
Brent Sass made the run to Galena in 5 hours and 48 minutes, but he doesn't stop. He leaves Galena and heads back onto the river.
Okay, you guys ready? All right, straight up, Merrill.
I didn't want Dallas to see me. And if I would have aided there, he would have seen my dog team at minimum. It could have been what ended the race for me.
The teams that stopped in Ruby for their mandatory 8-hour rest are now filtering down onto the river. They may be hours behind, but they remain in position should those they chase push too hard.
Talk! Come on, talker!
Brent Sass didn't go far out of Galena. Just 5 miles, in fact, and we catch up to him camped out on the river.
When you're leading this early in the race, it's kind of like, why are you up here, you know? I feel fine with it, you know. We'll see the 8s coming up here, and then the coast, you know. That's where the fun begins. I mean, we still got 20 miles on Dallas, and we'll see what happens with that over the next couple hundred miles. But it's better than being 20 miles behind.
But it was here that brought back a nightmare. He made the same decision in 2016 and went out into the heat of the day and was forced to stop and rest his team. He never got the top-end speed back. Did he just make that same mistake?
It went out in the heat of the day, and then it went into the slough for a while, and it was a 10-mile longer route to Koyukuk. And anyways, so, but I'd made it again.
6:31 Friday evening, Dallas Evie, after his 4-hour rest on the river, hits Galena. He won't stay.
Oh man, I sure wish I could have hung out with you guys for a bit. Maybe next time. You know what wins the Iditarod? Well-run dog teams. Well-run dog teams win the Iditarod. So when you focus on winning the Iditarod, where is your focus not? You can only focus on so much at a time. So when you're focused on have to win, competitive, make up time, gain on this guy, you know, reduce the distance between me and the next person, or increase the distance between me and whoever behind me.
And now he chases Brent to Nulato. And with the river now full of teams, darkness once again ascends the trail. And once again, it's Brent Sass, the first into the checkpoint. He remains in the lead. And once again, he doesn't stay.
I'm just going to blow through. All right, you guys, G!
This is what is called ghosting in long-distance mushing. It can be demoralizing to a chaser to never see the team in front of you. It's 3 hours, 41 minutes later when Dallas Evie arrives in Nulato. It's mile 582.
Staying or going?
I'm going to stay here for a couple hours, I think.
Dallas parks and will spend his 8-hour rest there.
I think now, if I drop one other, I should be able to actually race, and thankfully we're not in 20th position, so I'm really pleased with that.
So you're going to 8 here and then bust move?
Well, as much as we can. I think it might be too little too late, you know, but at least we get to race for whatever position, and that's always fun, and that was my goal, was to be able to get to Caltag or the end of the river, you know, with a team that was ready to race and just be in the best position we could be. And thankfully and somewhat surprisingly, we're in a good spot. I mean, not the spot we would have chosen, of course, but you know, Brent's 3-4 hours ahead at this point. So, but hey, there's still a long ways to go, and these guys, man, they're zippy. Catching up is the first step. We've talked about this last year when we were the one, fortunately, with a 3-hour lead. I don't mind if they catch up. Now they got to pass me. The roles were reversed this year. I could catch up with Brent, but I'm not going to have a team that's prepared to race him if we do that.
Only Brent Sass has yet to take his 8-hour rest in the lead pack. With only Keltag remaining on the run down the Yukon, Brent will be forced to take it there. It's 2:36 a.m. Saturday morning, about 5.5 days into the race, and Brent Sass remains in control. He arrives in Keltag, and for the first time since Cripple will stop in a checkpoint for his mandatory 8-hour rest, and he takes home the first Fish Award.
On behalf of Bristol Bay Native Corporation, I'd like to award you with the Fish First Award.
Awesome.
In commemoration of you being first into Keltag, this fish art piece is made by Upayuk Moore from Bristol Bay. It commemorates your arrival here first, and also the 50th anniversary of the Iditarod.
Awesome.
This gift also this award comes with a $2,000 cash award and some fresh Bristol Bay salmon that will be delivered to you at the end of the race.
Perfect.
So congratulations.
That's awesome. Thank you
we wish you all
so
the best
much.
as you make it to Nome.
Yes, thank you so much for the support of the race. This is awesome. It's beautiful.
Congratulations.
That run that I did all the way from that camp outside of Galena all the way to Keltag, it could have been my demise. And I lost a little bit of time on him, but I did not lose. I still had over 2 hours on him in Keltag. And so when I got there, it was all about whether I took that edge off the dog team. And this is where this dog team is just phenomenal. Like, I just asked them to do a super long run. We didn't do it fast, but we did it, and they came in happy, and they ate like crazy in Keltag.
And with the sun rising on this trail, the line of teams on this river stretches from Keltag all the way back to Ruby. Dallas Evie remains behind, but determined. With 10 dogs, he has plenty of power, and he has all of the experience needed to make a late race push. The wind is blowing. A welcome chill is in the air. And the teams are rolling down the Yukon. The sun is up, and Brent is as well in Keltag. And wind is now a player in this race. It's the stitching in the fabric of this country. And as he prepares to turn his team towards the Bering Sea, more of this wind is in the forecast.
The coast is always full of weather. So as we're finding out right now, it's starting to blow here. It's probably blowing even harder out there. These guys worrying about the wind. They're used to the wind, totally dialed in on the wind. We train in wind all the time, so I'm not too concerned about them being too concerned with the wind. It's mainly me keeping my head screwed on straight and making some good decisions.
I think that helped me sort of center myself and get myself back in control mentally. Because yeah, there was a few tough times in there where you could have easily just made a really bad mistake just because you're trying to, like that one could have been it. Trying to stay ahead of them and out of sight and not taking the 8 when I probably should have.
All right, Slater, let's go. Yep.
And remaining the ghost, Brent Sass leaves Keltag.
There we go.
And Dallas Evie has yet to arrive.
We took an 8-hour in Nulato. If he sits here for 4, that's 12 hours of rest. Can he make it one shot at the Unalakleet? No. He still has to stop.
Could go to particularly Tripod Cabin about 25 miles out. That's what I would do.
So he's not stopping
he's coming
here,
off of an 8. I would go to Tripod, have quiet for your dog.
If he's still battling the wind, he's got to go through.
And then it's a shorter run to Unalakleet. Instead of being a 72-mile run, it's more like a 50. I think you'll go through.
Here he comes.
All right, I'm going through. I need a vet to sign this if I could get one.
Dallas leaves 2 hours and 8 minutes behind Brent. It's historically one of the most important runs on this race, and it's the longest as well. 85 miles to Unalakleet, and Brent will have one eye behind him.
What wins Iditarods is strong, healthy dog teams that are managed to a T. That's where your focus should be. And if you're focusing on these other things, you're not focusing or properly prioritizing the things that cause us to win. And what causes us to win is a perfectly managed dog team. And that's what I take pride in. So when we set out on the Iditarod, my goal is to run a perfect Iditarod. It will never happen. And that's why I will likely keep coming back year after year for most of my life. But if you run a perfect race, or as close as you can, that gives your team the best possible chance of winning the race.
The others begin to arrive in Caltech. Jesse Holmes is first, well off the pace now. These teams arriving will now position themselves for the final 300 miles to the finish line.
Jesse, why stay here right now?
Because I got to take my sled apart.
What's wrong with it?
Nothing. I just want to lighten it up.
You happy where you are right now?
Oh yeah. It's good. Goes one more run and be on the coast.
It's 85 miles to Unalakleet. It's rare that a team makes that run without stopping. It's happened, but it wouldn't be prudent for the leader of the race. Brent is resting 30 miles from the checkpoint in a place called Old Woman Cabin.
Yeah, the race is on, absolutely. I mean, it's all about how fast you can get to know them without any restrictions, really, is what it comes down to now. It's running your own team and starting to think about a little bit more about the guys behind you. So, the guy behind me right now, in fact, he's Dallas Seavey. So, it's kind of a battle between him and I right now, and I have no idea what his plans are, and I don't really know what my plans are, really. And in the end, like I said, I think I got to keep it as conservative as possible and just run my team and keep having fun.
We went out of that place like a rocket, and the trail got super fast, and the attitudes was super high in the dogs, and I knew at that point that we had not done what happened in 16, where I took the edge off them by doing those longer runs.
Dallas is resting as well, closer to Caltech. If you know Dallas, you know there is no surrender, but he is beginning to come to terms with his deficit.
If anybody deserves to, hey buddy, come here, deserves to win this thing someday, it's Brent. He's paid his dues, he's done his time. So, I'd love to see him win sometime. Just I'd love to see him win one that I'm not racing it. I pulled into Old Woman Cabin just to check if he had camped, and sure enough, there's Straw. Thinking, man, this guy's getting better. He's learning. And from then on, I think we had very comparable speed, and he was still ahead. Because he had done that push into his 8, he gained some time. He then gave that time back once he realized, I think, that he overextended him just a touch. But that quick reaction is the mark of a good musher. So he reacted quickly.
The sun sets on another day on this trail. It's been a few years since dog teams traveled this portage during this race. And as that sun fills the sky with fire orange and a warm glow, one is reminded of the races over these 50 years whose outcomes seemed set on this coast, only to have an unforeseen circumstance shake and roll this trail. Brent Sass still has 250 miles to negotiate when he reaches Unalakleet. "20 minutes before midnight, Brent Sass is the first to the Bering Sea coast. He's 75% of the way to the goal, but he knows nobody has ever won the Joe Reddington Senior Trophy in Unalakleet.
On behalf of Ryanair Service and the wonderful people of Unalakleet, I'd like to present you with not a mask, but 1 ounce of gold.
Awesome.
And it'll be given to you at the award ceremony. Awesome. And a packet of Ryanair supplies.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Good luck on
the race.
Good luck on the rest of your race.
All right. Appreciate that. Thanks for being out here tonight.
You second guess everything you're doing, and then if you're not moving 9 miles an hour, you're freaking out that Dallas is going to catch up with you. He's 3 hours behind me, and I'm looking over my shoulder going, is he coming?
Just 6 minutes later, and with 12 dogs, Brent once again will not allow any other musher to see him. It's he, his team, and now a raging wind and the unknown miles ahead that stand between him and his dream. Just an hour and 44 minutes behind Brent, Dallas has arrived. Still with so many miles to go, he will bank rest in Unalakleet and hope that his speed is there in the end to catch Brent.
They want to take down the Titan, man. They want to take down the one that's been on the top. Partially, you're to blame. You know, you built us up to be the unbeatable. Dude, and it kind of irks me because my perception is we're always the underdog. We have a great race. It's touch and go. We make these gut instinct calls, and you don't know if it's completely the wrong decision or absolutely the most brilliant decision in the moment. And you get to the finish and you're like, there is no possible way we can repeat that performance. That dog team stepped up at every opportunity. They rose instead of, were broken down because of this run or that run. So when I go into it the next year, I always feel like the underdog.
I knew he was going to stop in Unalakleet, was pretty sure, because he had come all the way from before the tripod cabin. I got up there and camped, and it was a beautiful camp in the hills there. And then when we took off from that, it was like the most unbelievable dog team I'd ever seen.
It's 40 miles to the next checkpoint. It's called Shaktoolik. They climb over the Blueberry Hills and then back down to the ocean. It's a favorite of many a musher.
The Blueberry Hills go forever, and it's like one hill after another after another. They're not super steep, but they just kind of keep coming, and I just stood there. And they just pulled me at 9 miles an hour up and down those hills, and it was just like, I felt really a lot of confidence at that point.
Hello from Shaktoolik.
It's just over 9 a.m. Sunday morning. Brent Sass hits Shaktoolik. It's 754 miles into the race.
Beautiful out.
It's common for the teams to stop and rest here because the next 40 miles are on open sea ice.
I'm just blowing through.
But this is Brent Sass.
It was blowing like hell in Shaktoolik when I went through there. I mean, it was blowing. And then the guy there, the checker there, was like, "Yeah, we're supposed to get higher winds, in the afternoon." And it's like, but it's light out one, so that adds for me. I think that just a mental thing. It's good to have some light when you're heading out onto there. The dark can be a little more intimidating.
Brent leaves Shak. He lives and trains in Eureka, Alaska, off the grid.
We're fortunate to have one of the meccas of dog mushing on our home trails right here.
He spends many days out with this team. They know wind, and they know legends of this game.
Susan Butcher and Dave Munson's homestead here in Eureka. The energy is amazing. What's up, Susan? Say it every time I go down this trail.
Both Susan Butcher and Rick Swenson trained on the very trails he uses in Eureka. 9 Iditarod championships between those two greats.
Well, we're expecting Dallas CV any time now.
The 2-hour lead for Sass remains when Dallas CV hits Shaktoolik. He's left with no choice but to go.
All right, we're gonna grab some food and keep on trucking, I think. You've branded Brent as the woodsman. You've branded me as the ultimate racer. But I would also have you take a real close look at when the weather goes to hell. Have I ever had a bad race? When the storms really start ripping, who gets through it an hour and a half faster than anybody else? You're gonna have a hard time finding somebody who can suffer better than I can. I do think that I put more emphasis on being smart, making smart moves, understanding this race, studying this race. I am a student of the sport, but not to the deficit of knowing how to travel with a dog team. Brent does the quest, Brent lives in a cabin. Brent is very visible on social media, and that's what he portrays, that's what he puts out there, and it's legitimate. Don't get me wrong, it's not a facade, he's not making it up, he does that. We do that as well.
And the race is on across one of the most treacherous sections of this trail. The wind is king here. It's common, and it's relentless. And both Sass and CV have their work cut out for them.
They live in wind. Like, the wind will blow 20, 30 miles an hour consistently for days where we live. So they come out of their house, they're just used to the wind blowing in their face, and we go on runs and all of that stuff, and we traveled in the blizzards all the time this year.
I think a lot of people thought he was going straight to Quake. No, that's the Brent of 5 years ago. He did the same thing in 2020. This is the advantage to studying these guys. I know what they're gonna do. Mushers have habits, most of them.
Neither Brent nor Dallas will make this run to Koyuk without stopping. Dallas finds a shelter cabin and takes his break there.
All I can do is get my team to the finish as fast as we can. If that's enough, great. If it's not, great. You don't win them all. And if our bad race is a second, then I'm feeling pretty good about that. You know, I feel proud of how we've managed this team to even be here racing. It took, the technical stuff happened getting to Cripple. That was some of the toughest dog driving I've done as far as making the right decisions, and I think we did pretty dang well.
Brent has chosen to stop on the ice, 15 miles from Koyuk. His team is well sheltered in a traditional huddle. The air is warm, and his team is getting great rest.
It's always fun being on the coast, being out here and on the sea ice. So we're getting close to the finish line here, and in a battle, Dallas CV. So yeah, it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a good fight to the finish.
Back in Unalakleet, resting in the morning sun and preparing for the wind and the wide open country ahead, the race for third will be wild.
He's our local and we just want him to win, you know?
He won't call it a retirement, but Aaron Burmeister plans to take years off from the race. The reality of that is hitting him in Unalakleet.
It's hard looking around and seeing family and friends and thinking, I always think about next year. Every time I'm running the race, I'm thinking about what I'm going to improve for next year. It's hard not to think about next year. That is tough spot. This is life. That's the hard part of this race. This year's race for me. But it's been a pleasure driving this dog team. It really has.
Hi. That's one of the things that I really love about Aaron, you know, is he doesn't just appreciate the racing aspect of this, he appreciates all the communities along the trail and tries to give back to the, you know, younger people in the sport and the whole sport itself. That's how this race made it 50 years, is people like that.
Make sure you got the message here from Dad.
Food!
Yeah, you got some pizza, peace on earth.
Right now.
Unalakleet has become famous for its pizza.
Hey Dad, we got a pizza for you from Christy and Daniel Lent.
A favorite for mushers and those that follow the race.
This will be waiting for you inside when you're ready to eat.
I'm gonna have one piece right now.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, you can do that.
The local pizzeria has been busy.
That looks awesome.
You can
I
have
was
the whole...
actually thinking about Peace on Earth pizza when I was mushing in. It's kind of weird.
We've got a pizza here for you. I don't know if you want it now or if I can leave it up in the checkpoint.
Yeah, I'll take care of you guys first, and then I'll definitely come take advantage of that. Thank you.
Unalakleet is also a place where sleds are checked and re-engineered for the difficult trail ahead. The Bering Sea coast is unlike few environments on this planet. A splinter will become a crack. Any crack will become a break, and these mushers know it.
Right after I left Caltech, about 4 or 5 miles out, I heard a very, very light crack. And I looked down, and my one runner broke, and then seconds went by, and I heard another crack. It wasn't very loud, and the other runner broke. And then my plan of coming to Unalakleet kind of got messed up. Now it's just about actually even making it down the trail.
Mushers helping mushers. Travis Beals lends a helping hand to Chad Stoddard.
This is the second year in a row that Travis has helped me. Last year, he let me ski pole at the end, which was really helpful for me because I didn't have one. And this year, he's helped me in an even bigger way by lending me this sled. He just changed his out. So.
Meanwhile, the leaders in the race are back on the move, and their teams are dealing with the teeth of this wind across Norton Sound. Brent remains 2 hours in front of Dallas CV. The magnificence of a sled dog and a generational caliber leader is on full display in this environment.
It's fun to watch. Having that in the back pocket is so nice because I know that the dogs are like that. I don't really have a question when I head into the wind whether they're going to do it or not. They're going to do it. They love to do it.
And I see North with his nose down driving, but not just blindly driving into the storm. We were 6 steps to the left of the trail and we were zigzagging. He figured out within a few minutes of me talking to him about it, as though we were a human, that the trail, the snow machines just went over. It's very minor, this much soft stuff, but what it did is it took that glazed surface, it broke it, it turned it over, and you now have sharp, jagged edges. Doesn't bother the dog's feet, they have the booties on, and in fact gives them better traction. Every inclination is to get onto this visible track where the last snow machine went that has good traction for them. But the sled has more resistance. Those runners are catching every one of those sharp edges. So I talk to North, I tell him what we want to do, and that is to run on the glazed, wind-blown surface just to the left. He then is zigzagging around the drifts, staying on the glazed, wind-blown ice, going almost all the way back to the trail, and then catching the next little path, slaloming the drifts, staying within somewhere between 6 feet and 60 feet to the left of the trail. That is a lead dog. Not just one that'll put his head down and blindly chase the storm. Not one that is stubborn and can just do it if you don't ask anything mental of him. This is a complete lead dog that has the physical ability, has the mental toughness, and has the smarts and the communication with the musher to do something abstract.
For me, it's a great moment because, like I said, I've taken a lot of pride in raising my own dog. Being able to start my breeding program, 10, 12, 14 years ago, and create dogs that can win the Iditarod is pretty awesome.
Straight up, guys, all the way up.
And Brent is again the first to reach the checkpoint, Koyuk. It's 6:52 Sunday night, and you guessed it, he remains out of sight, invisible to his competition.
It's been a good run, but he's still right back there. So, what's that? Oh no, I haven't seen anyone since Cripple.
Brent is now 804 miles into the race, but there is adversity ahead. More mountains to climb and more wind to negotiate. And now this.
When I left Koyuk, my runner plastic was all beat up and it was bad. And it was one of those things where, like, I don't change my runner plastic very much, but when you've got really bad runner plastic on, and the coast is a really bad place for it because the snow is just different on the coast, and you can have a bad combination of runner plastic and you can be going very, very slow. and we did.
Dallas arrives in Koyuk 2 hours and 25 minutes behind Brent. He's always computing. In his sleep-deprived state, the photo will
We're going
help.
to keep on doing everything we can, but I find it unlikely that that's going to be enough.
It's 48 miles to Elam. It's traveled in the dark by Brent. He's a musher that lives with his dogs in his own wilderness. He's off the grid and for years has been building a winner, a multiple Yukon Quest champion. But this is a trail that is conquered by experience and skill. For the best teams are always here. To win the Iditarod, you have to master a chessboard over 9 days with very little sleep and environmental conditions not ripe for greatness. It's 5:12 in the morning, and Brent reaches Elam.
I was running and kicking and ski poling, and I wasn't doing it to get from like 7 miles an hour to 9. I was doing it to get from like 6 to 6.5 to 8 maybe, if I was lucky. And I knew like those speeds were not good enough to stay ahead of Dallas. I was so dehydrated, I didn't have any water, so I was like eating chunks of ice, eating like frozen beef stew or whatever. Mentally, I was worried that I could not hold the race at that point. And that's because we had been moving so slow, and I started to get pretty beat down and really tired. Couldn't keep my eyes open.
And again, Brent keeps his advantage on Dallas intact. In Elam, for just 5 minutes, he's headed for his mandatory 8-hour rest in White Mountain.
Late in the race, during any sort of adverse conditions, that's when that extra trust, that extra loyalty to each other really sets in. Like, they saw that I was falling apart. I was cramping up big time. That's how I was eating stew, because I was like, any amount of fluids I can get in me, I can't be cramping up right now. I got to stand on these runners. And like, they saw that, and they ramped it up.
To say that an Iditarod champion is tough is like saying you have to hit the baseball hard to get it over the fence. Brent Sass and Dallas Seavey are cut out of a mold that would make them great at this in any era of this race. Toughness is a given with these two, and I'm not sure that words can describe its depth, but piano wire and shoe leather come to mind.
Where we going here? How's it going, guys?
There's no quit in this 5-time champion.
You going through Dallas?
Yes, I am.
Brent has made mistakes in his past races on this coast. It's not over yet.
And if anybody wants to have a real bushman's race, drop me anywhere in Alaska with 6 dogs, 1,000 miles from anywhere, and I'll race them out of there. I'll build my sled, I'll build my harnesses. I understand how all these aspects interact with the dog team. I understand the dog team psychology. We'll kill a moose. We'll find our way out of there faster than anybody else.
The sun is up, and these two teams remain separated by 2.5 hours. They're greeted by the warmest welcome on Gullivan Bay on this Monday morning. When they get to White Mountain, they will see each other for the first time since Cripple, some 475 miles ago.
You're not looking past more than 5 minutes ahead, and we're just going to go one step at a time here, because you can't let the guard down at all.
It was not realistic that unless he made a mistake, he wasn't just going to crater or slow down dramatically. He was running the same schedule I was running. He started 3 hours ahead in Cripple. I think it would be unrealistic for me to think that I'm going to outrun him by some huge portion.
This is White Mountain, kind of like a false summit if you're a mountaineer. Certainly an accomplishment when you get here first, but there's still 77 miles to go, and some of the worst conditions may be yet to come. It's Brent Sass arriving first,
Number 27.
and he's forced to stay in this checkpoint. He'll be here for 8 hours, and he will keep one eye on the clock. That will indicate how big his lead is over those final miles.
Well, we made it. Oh.
How you feeling?
I'm in shock, maybe? I don't really know yet. It was a really good run this morning, so that was fun. These guys did excellent. Oh, it's okay. I don't know. Yeah, it's a little surreal, to be honest. It's been a hell of a race for these guys. I'm super proud of them. Oh. And I'm tired, for the record.
When Dallas Evie arrives, he's 2 hours and 37 minutes behind. With 77 miles to go, that is a huge deficit. But he's come from behind before in this final stretch. In fact, 2014, his second title, he didn't even know he won when he got to know him.
What exactly did I do?
You just won the Iditarod 2014.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, dude.
That was my dad behind me.
Right?
Where's Jeff and Allie?
Behind you.
Huh. Oh, that's one heck of a run, man.
Can you win this race?
No. I mean, unless something goes wrong, I don't think so.
You guys killed it. Whole race. All we gotta do is one more run. Simple. Just through 30 or 40 mile an hour winds. Not a problem.
I'll give you a 10 countdown.
Okay. All right, guys, let's go. Hop, Slater. Hop, 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 hop. Good dog. Good dog.
At 7:05 Monday night, with 11 dogs in harness, Brent Sass heads for Nome. And the culmination of years of work and painful disappointments can all be softened with this first championship. But this is the Iditarod.
We left White Mountain with a headwind, you know, and the farther we got up in the top cock, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And in my head, I'm just going, this is, of course, is what has to happen. Like, last run, I got an Iditarod championship right there, and the worst storm, one of the worst that's ever happened is happening right now, or some of the highest winds ever.
I also had a conversation there where it's like, yeah, there could be a big storm. And that'd be awesome if there's an epic storm and there's a battle and we made up 3 hours and I beat him. But I was also thinking, like, you know how much that'd suck for Brent? Like, I've been there, and you think you've got this race won, and the longer you think you've got it won, the worse. And then all of a sudden, something goes wrong, something goes sideways, you miscalculate. It's devastating.
And about the time Dallas is leaving, Brent is encountering what could be a life-changing event.
The dogs are just charging into the wind, and it's blowing, and you know, the side of the sled is like a sail at that point. I mean, at one gust, I lost my footing and started sliding sideways, and the wind just picked up the sled, and we just barrel rode down probably 20, 30 yards down into the abyss. And I'm like, what do I do? Like, I immediately like get up, I turn the headlamp on my light, on my bar, my handlebar on, because if I walk away from the sled 10 feet, I can't see it anymore. Start walking away, and then I realize, like, if I don't make some sort of track, like, I'm never gonna make it back to the sled, because if you just walk, it just goes away. So I'm like pounding into the hard pack there, so I have some like big footprints that I can follow back to the sled. I did that in like every direction.
I had no idea that he was having challenges. I knew we were moving fast. I knew we would probably make up some time on him, but I didn't have any illusion of making up 3 hours on him.
This is straight up, if Dallas CV goes by, I'm gonna lose the Iditarod because I was stuck in a storm, and that's not gonna happen to me.
Straight up! Hop, 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 hop.
His determination leads him through the wind, at least the most vicious blowhole anyways. He finds safety, 22 miles from the finish line, and his first Iditarod championship.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 dogs.
Even coming in, I'm trying to imagine, like, we're gonna win the Iditarod, you know, like, it hasn't even set in yet. And it's a pretty unreal feeling. Super proud of the dogs.
These are emotional hours, reflective hours.
Congratulations, man.
For Brent, they're also hours of gratitude. He thinks of Silver, his very first sled dog, a special character whose genetics and life live on in this championship team. Brent lives in Eureka, where Susan Butcher once trained her championship teams. Mentored by Susan and Joey Reddington, the son of Joe Sr.
Spreading over the land.
It's also a time to think of Hobo Jim,
See a young boy standing with a suitcase in his hand.
an Iditarod legend, singer, and songwriter, and the birth of his kennel's name, Wild and Free. It's titled in a song.
I was running like a wolf in the mountains, wild and free.
3 people who have passed, but each had their own impact on this race and on him.
God, I'm thinking they would love to see this. Joey is the coolest guy I ever met. Like, he's a big mentor of mine, and he'd have been beside himself, you know, and he would have been just so proud. And he is, wherever he's at. I thought about those guys a lot.
Well, I've got it in my mind that it must have been the times.
Years of work and dreaming have placed Brent here at the finish line.
Warm roof above, but everybody around me to say it was just me being wild and free.
A generational character, tough, a dog man and a true woodsman. This trail tried to wreck this dream. But in its 50th year, fate wins out, and Brent is now an Iditarod champion, and he is wild and free.
Slater is a great grandkid of Silver. They're just the best sled dogs that I've ever had. Their attitude, they're pet dogs and sled dogs. They're everything.
In my heart, there's a wild wolf howling to the top.
Brent had a great team. He had a great run. You know, I don't know the challenges and the difficulties that he had along the way. Like I said, I know the ones that I had. I think we overcame them as well as I know how to at this point, and better than I could have done any previous year. I know that. I am really proud of how we ran this team.
To see the entire interviews with Brent and Dallas and many of the other mushers from this race, please go to Iditarod.com and look under the Insider 2.0 tab. Also hear from Bridget Watkins and Gerhard Theart and hear their harrowing experiences in a coastal storm. And be watching for more summertime content. And we'll see you next year on the Iditarod Trail.
Well, way up in Alaska, the state that stands alone, there's a dog race run from Anchorage in the Nome. And it's a grueling race with a lightning pace, where the chilly winds do wail beneath the northern lights, across snow and the ice, and it's called the Iditarod Trail. Well, give me a team and a good lead dog and a sled that's built so fine, and let me race those miles to Nome 1049. Then when I get back to my home, hey, I can tell my tale. I did the Iditarod Trail. Well, the race, it won't be easy for the man.
I think my grandpa would be very proud of the race and the mushers.
But just to run that race takes a tough and a hardy breed, and a lot of work done by the dogs that run across snow with a whistle and speed. Well, give me a team and a good lead dog and a sled that's built so fine, and let me race those miles to Nome 1049. Then when I get back to my home, hey, I can tell my tale. I did the Iditarod Trail. Well, I just pulled out of safety. I'm on the trail all alone. I'm doing fine and I'm picking up time and I'm running on in the Nome. There are no sled tracks in front of me and no one on my tail. I did the Iditarod Trail. Well, give me a team and a good lead dog and a sled that's built so fine, and let me race those miles to Nome 1049. Then when I get back to my home, hey, I can tell my tale. I did the Iditarod Trail. I did